and welcome to our Confessions podcast. This week's concise collection of terrible tales include a compact disc debacle, a smelly stage smooch, a dining disaster, and 2 teachers in a tryst. Here it all is. It's tonight's confession. This is from Sean. Sean, thank you very much indeed for tonight's tale. You can send yours via the website. You can email confessions@bbc.co.uk. Dear Collective, forgive my story of depravity. It takes place in a theatrical context, but is all the worse for that. At school, I got a role in the school play. It was a new play written by our drama teacher, Mr. Terry. It was called Lamps and Hoops, and to be honest, was poor. It was also a little weird and creepy, and he had to rewrite it a number of times to make it okay to perform in front of a school crowd of teachers, parents and pupils. But I digress. We had a good reputation for drama, and our plays were usually reviewed in the local paper. Competition for parts was always fierce, unless it was Chaucer or some nonsense like that, in which case no one wanted to audition at all, and we had to be bribed with lighter homework and better marks. But that's someone else's confession. That sounds quite interesting. Come on, be in the play, we'll give you an A. That's how it worked. Apparently, that's how it worked at this school. Mostly it was students who filled the roles, and mine was a minor one. But it was fun to watch the usual stress, rivalry, bitterness and chaos of another school play. My character was a detective called Mangold, who was on stage lots but said little. My 2 lines I remember still. "I really wouldn't, sir. It looks wrong." And, "Confidentially, Miss Gordon, it's a nightmare." One was in Act 1 and the other was in Act 3. In between, I had lots of stern expressions and pointing to do, and I did so reliably. The play was about a triple murder, and we performed it well enough. However, the main drama was happening off stage. Our geography teacher and French teacher had the roles of the older characters in the play. They were supposed to be domestic staff in a large household who meet and, shall we say, start an adult friendship that scandalises everyone, etc., etc. The thing is, Mr. Lee and Miss Jennings actually really did start a real-life proper adult friendship of their own. This was not supposed to happen, of course, as they were involved in other adult friendships of a legal nature. But try as they might, they couldn't hide their newfound rapture in each other's arms. So the scene where they had to lie down together, due to tiredness, acquired a certain momentum as the rehearsals progressed, as you can imagine. Backstage, I was witness to a host of giggles and smirks. While we were in rehearsal, this was manageable, but I'm afraid to report, once the performances started for real, this enthusiasm by the actors was picked up in the audience, who started to nudge and wink. This friendship became the talk of the school, and a few suggestive pieces of graffiti started to appear in the boys' toilets. Lessons with Mr. Lee or Miss Jennings became a challenge to see who could ask the most suggestive question, while still staying on the subject. With Mr. Lee's geography class, this wasn't difficult, and earthquakes, hills and river features came up a lot. I can't vouch for Miss Jennings, as she didn't teach me, but it doesn't take a French genius to rearrange the vocab list for innuendo and smut. The shows were sold out now, and the lying down scene keenly anticipated. On the second night, he got a round of applause. This was rather inappropriate, given the murders happening everywhere else in the play, but we had forgotten about those. As the final night approached, something special was called for. And I'm afraid to say it was me who suggested an idea to the lighting and sound guys and ladies. It was greeted with vigorous enthusiasm by all, and the appropriate action was taken. And so the final show got underway, and the murders, mayhem and mystery began, and then we got to Mr. Lee's and Miss Jennings' lying down scene. As they fell into each other's arms, the first puff of dry ice appeared from under the bed. As the passion continued, the puff became a billow of dry ice, and within seconds the whole stage had disappeared behind a cloud of carbon dioxide. We had overdone it, to be honest, and the first 3 rows of the audience were completely enveloped. But the howls of laughter from everyone backstage and in the audience made the whole thing thoroughly worthwhile. Miss Jennings and Mr. Lee saw the funny side eventually, but only after shouting and swearing at all of us first. We were made to clear up and apologise, but we were the toast of the school for quite a while. We also embarrassed the lovebirds so much that they gave up their romance and returned to their legal relationships, for a while at least. I would like to apologise, but not to the happy amorous couple, but rather to the 3 rows of paying guests, including the Chair of Governors, who wasn't expecting to be a part of the action. So I should say sorry to them just a bit, even though it was fun. Please forgive me, says Sean, a fantastic story of a school play with the head of geography and the head of French getting a little carried away with the lying down scene, whatever that might mean.
I love that story. I love the way Sean wrote it. It's very funny. And I just remember, it just reminded me of being back at school and how there was nothing better than gossip about the teachers and making the teachers look ridiculous. I think the whole thing was hilarious from start to finish. I love the dry smoke scene, and a bit of dry smoke never hurt anyone, did it?
Well,
it's
I don't know. I think it depends. If it's a comedy, then
yeah. I mean, as Sean himself said, you know, there were howls of laughter from the audience and members of the play. So, Sean, you are completely forgiven.
OK, that's going well so far, Sean. Now let's see what Mother Superior makes.
Did you mention the story? And I promise I was listening very closely.
Yes, of course.
Did they mention why the smoke? Why they wanted to do the dry ice to make a smoky effect?
Just because they thought it was funny.
They just thought that was funny, right? Okay. OK, well, in that case, I would say that I don't really know what you want us to forgive you for, because I don't think that's
messing
really...
up the play, I think.
Well,
it wasn't supposed to be funny.
No, I know, but I just think that it was a prank, wasn't it, really? It was a prank. Good word, that. I like that word, prank. It was a prank that didn't not go right. I just think that it wasn't anything to write home about. I'm sorry about the people in the front row getting iced. But apart from that, I would say that you're forgiven.
What do you think? What do you think about this, Brother Matthew?
Well, let's be honest about this. The only reason anyone was going to this play was for that scene and for the involvement of the
Lamps and Hoops might have had
it sounds like it was awful. But lightened by the fact that we had the geography teacher and the French teacher and everyone was in the audience going, oh, I know what's going on here. And so everyone was waiting for that scene. And frankly, the fact that we had a bit of dry ice in it as well done them. And also, frankly, the French teacher and the geography teacher need to be ashamed of themselves for what was going on. I mean, apart from the legal relationships, it's completely unprofessional for actors to start getting involved with each other and taking things a bit too far when you're trying to do a lying down scene. So I am definitely going to forgive here, because I agree, there's nothing to forgive.
It's confession time. Thank you very much for all the confessions coming in. You can do them online. You can send us an email, confessions@bbc.co.uk. The collective are here, ready, poised, pen in hand. In Rebecca's case, nodding off. In
I
Matt's
don't have
case,
a pen in hand.
No, it's all in your head. You just hold the whole thing
That's
in your
why
head.
it all comes out as rubbish.
That was a point that was raised in a meeting earlier. So here we go. This is a tale from Stephen. It kind of follows on from yesterday's confession. Dear Simon and your ever-forgiving collective, listening to your theatre confession yesterday has stirred up a distant memory from my own past, working as the lighting operator in the school theatre. The year was, I think, 1996, and the school play was the highlight of the dramatic calendar. As your previous confessor, and half of the collective no doubt will know, last night hijinks in the theatre are the norm, and to a certain extent expected of the crew as the actors and actresses prance about on stage with very little defence. Our school plays were always very elaborate and well-produced affairs, and of very high quality from a cast of up to 40 teenage school girls and boys, and even though there were many targets for last night pranks, they seemed to always target the lead actors, and those with singing solos, probably due to some latent teenage jealousy or some such. The main production of the year in question was a performance of Cole Porter's Kiss Me Kate, an adaptation of Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew, and the final scene culminated in the two protagonists sharing their first, on-stage, passionate embrace as the lights faded to leave them in the single spotlight for a couple of seconds before fading to black to signal the end of their kiss and the end of the play. As the week of performances drew to a close, many different parties were all idly wondering what they could do to spice up the final performance, and my lighting team and I were no different. However, having seen the fallout from a previous year's performance, where a musketeer's sword had been silently replaced with a tiny dagger, and having to witness the director's fury as the carefully choreographed fight scene was hastily ad-libbed on the final night, with Porthos defeating the Cardinal's guards with what could best be described as a letter opener, we decided to keep this year's attempts at childish humour a little less confrontational. So as it came down to the final kiss of the final performance, we decided that the best thing to do would be to let the couple keep the spotlight for as long as they wanted, or, as the case may be, as long as we wanted. They had no choice, unfortunately, as while the final spotlight was on them, they couldn't release their clinch and stop kissing. So as they wrapped lips around each other, the lights faded to the single spotlight which lingered and lingered and lingered. As long as the spot was on them, they just had to keep going. I forgot to get a stopwatch out to see how long the couple were prepared to hold this final and unexpectedly prolonged embrace, but I reckon that it was probably 2 or 3 minutes.
Wow.
Before they broke the kiss and we faded the lights to black. They'd squirmed, they'd wriggled, and they'd gyrated.
Ooh.
They'd squirmed, they'd wriggled and gyrated again, and they'd run out of things to do. Now, this would not itself have been such a bad thing, this long kiss, had it not been for the fact that we weren't the only ones who were scheming. Unbeknownst to us, the girl playing Lily, the female lead, had been having similar thoughts, and knowing that the culmination of the play would be the final embrace, had spent the entire interval eating garlic. This is raw garlic, an entire bulb of it, from what I could gather from the tales afterwards and the smell in the green room. When she smiled, she still had some in between her teeth. So as the show drew to a close for the final night, the male lead, now fully aware of the aroma of garlic from front stage, had to pucker up for that one last embrace, only to find that the expected blackout never came, and he had to hold that long garlicky embrace for the best part of 4 minutes before coming up for air. So, Father Simon, I throw myself at the mercy of all of you and your collective and ask forgiveness from my classmate for possibly the worst kiss he's ever had. Whilst I'm at it, I may as well seek forgiveness from other members of the theatre who have fallen foul of my last night frivolity. So I seek forgiveness from the members of the chorus who unwittingly ate food on stage that had been laced with Tabasco, from the teenage actress in a market scene who found a carrot in the shape of a particular part of a male anatomy, from Jason who had to deal with a combination of us putting marshmallows between his toes and tasteful adult photographic art as he tried to operate the giant in Jack and the Beanstalk. Well, there's a whole catalogue of errors and sins and crimes which Steve has committed, but it's particularly the long 3-minute kiss at the end of Kiss Me Kate with garlicky Lily, which he didn't know anything about. But hey, that would have been something
it's
there
extraordinary
to behold.
what's going on in this tale. I mean, and the extended kiss is one thing, but Lily eating raw garlic and then wanting to smell disgusting as she kisses her co-actor.
How about
I
that?
cannot
They
understand
obviously
that at
weren't
all.
getting on particularly well.
Yeah, maybe she really hated him, which makes the clench even worse, doesn't it? But I think it's really funny. So, I mean, I love a funny prank, as I've always said, and Steve sounds like he's got quite a few up his sleeve. Pick garlic out of your teeth.
Yes.
So I think
He could at least that would have been something for him to do.
Yeah, true. I also think good on the other actor, the male actor, for going for 3 minutes. Was it 3 minutes?
2, 3
Incredible.
minutes.
No, I think you're totally forgiven, Steve.
There must have been many titters in the audience. What do you say, Mother Superior?
I'm pondering on the length of a kiss and how long it should be, because I don't think 2 or 3 minutes is that long.
Sounds distasteful to me.
Well,
On stage with people watching.
but you don't do that kind of stuff anymore, Simon, do
No,
you?
but I'm
You
just
don't
saying
do
you're on
kissing and
stage.
stuff.
You're on
yes.
stage.
No, but I mean, I'm just generally thinking that a kiss of 2 or 3 minutes long isn't a long time, I think. But I think the idea of doing it with a woman who's got a bulb of garlic in her mouth, didn't that happen in one of the James Bond films once?
Yes, on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
That's right, and
Diana
one of
Rigg.
them hated each other so much
I
that
think it was Diana
they had
Rigg,
Diana Rigg did it. So it's a well tried and tested thing. I think probably this is I think it's quite funny, really. So I would say that I would definitely forgive you.
Brother Matthew, what say ye?
Do you know, I was definitely going to forgive on this up until the point where Stephen started revealing all the other zany pranks he's pulled. What a crazy, zany, wacky kind of bloke
We
Stephen is.
we took out some
No,
of them.
he's not. Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to put marshmallows between his toes. Oh, I'm going to put funny photos inside the giant. Aren't I crazy and zany? No, you're not, Stephen. You're a pain, and no one wants to employ you in any theatres now. And thankfully, I'm glad you're out of the business, and I shall not
It was
forgive.
a school play, Matt.
Right, yeah, well, I'm taking it all far too seriously then, but I still say not forgiven, just because of all your other stuff.
Amy says, Dear Father Mayo and the rest of the Conscience Clearing Collective, I write to you in search of forgiveness for a sin that was committed some 13 years ago. When I was 10, my little brother Mark was 5. It's a hot summer's day in 1999, and I, the responsible big sister that I was, had the task of looking after my baby brother downstairs, whilst our mother was 3 floors up clearing the attic. Mark was playing contentedly in the corner of the room with his blocks of toy bricks. You know the ones, I think we've changed that bit. The original said Lego. So I decided to pass...
Well done.
Got a course at the weekend. So I decided to pass the time by diving into my tip-top CD collection and having a little dance party for one. My meagre pocket money, saved up over the weeks and weeks, had come to provide me with all the latest must-haves for the typical pre-teen of the time. Spice Girls, Steps, Bewitched, they were all there. But my pride and joy, the one compact disc I cherished more than any other, was my Britney Spears album. Excuse me. Rifling through my CD drawer to find the masterpiece, my eyes finally fell upon it, and immediately I knew something was wrong. The plastic case, which I always kept so impeccably pristine, had what can only be described as a 5-year-old sticky, chocolatey, muddy, buttery fingerprints all over it. My breathing pattern began to increase. I opened up the case, thumbed out the disc, and my stomach gave a lurch at the sight of my most precious possession, the disc itself, scratched and scraped to bits by what I can only imagine was a toy brick creation of some sort, or another kind of toy belonging to my brother. I'll say now that this is the part of my confession in which things begin to get out of hand. Enraged by this discovery, the thought of my wasted pocket money, and the fact that my favourite ever thing had been defaced, I ran, ruined CD in hand, to the conservatory where little Mark was playing with the offensive toy weaponry. "Mark!" I screamed. "What have you done to my CD?" Made her sound like an old woman.
You did, yeah. This is another voice, isn't it?
"What have you done to my CD?" As cool as a cucumber, my brother stood and looked up at me from his hotbed of toy brick shame and said, "Didn't want to listen again, don't like the girls squeaky singing, your music stinks." Well, what happened next can only be described as the mother of all overreactions. Infuriated and without thinking, I hurled the now useless CD that was in my hand hard and fast in the direction of my brother. Amazingly and unfortunately, the CD hit him square on the forehead, leaving a deep gash. This alone would have been bad enough tale to tell, but it gets worse. Mark, in dodging the CD, or trying to, tumbled backwards and hit his head on the coffee table. My temper had got the better of me, which I now realise was a foolish thing, and I bitterly regret it. But back to the matter in hand, my brother was out cold. At this very moment, amid the ringing panic in my ears, I could hear the sound of my mother's footsteps coming down the stairs, as of yet fully unaware that her only daughter may have just maimed her only son in a Britney Spears-related incident. I had to move, and I had to move fast. In a plan that I still can't quite believe I was able to conjure in my young mind in the few seconds I had before Mum discovered the scene, I grabbed my little brother and moved him to the door of the conservatory, which leads out to the garden, and positioned him in such a way that it would look as though he'd tripped and banged his head on the raised part of the door frame. I ran back into the kitchen just in time for Mum to come out from the hallway, shoot me a smile, walk into the conservatory, and scream. To this very day, as far as I'm aware, my brother has no memory of the event, and is quite happy to point to the Harry Potter-like mark on his forehead, and sit in the spotlight at many a Christmas dinner whilst our mother tells the tale of the day he got overexcited playing with his toy bricks and tripped by the door. So, Collective, I ask forgiveness today for attacking my brother over a Britney Spears CD, and I also ask forgiveness for my family who've had to endure the tale at least once a year. Also for those worrying about any long-lasting mental scars my attack might have had on Mark. He passed all his GCSEs with flying colours and is the star striker of his Sunday League football team. Most apologetically, Amy. Well, you see, she's very apologetic. She overreacted. She knows she did the wrong thing. She was enraged by
incredible quick thinking to drag her brother's body to the edge of the to the garden, whatever it was. It reminds me of something that my brother's son did. He was having a bath with his older sister, and he's about 7 now, and he karate kicked her because he was showing off his karate moves, and her head went back onto the bath tap, and he knocked her out cold, and they had to call 2 ambulances. Anyway, she was fine. Yeah, families. It was an accident, clearly. As she says, he has no memories of what happened, and has suffered no harm from it. So I completely forgive you, Amy.
It's interesting it's taken all this time, since 1999, for Amy to actually feel that she can actually tell her brother exactly what happened, and it had nothing to do with him tripping in the conservatory. What do you say, Mother Superior?
Well, there are some people in the world who would say if you destroy a Britney Spears CD, it's not really a crime. It's not anything really that you should be punished for. I'm not saying that I necessarily am of that view, but I'm just saying that some people might say that. I do remember having a fight with my brothers over my teddy bear, who they de-limbed. They took every limb off him, and we had a big fight, and they ended up locking me in the bedroom cupboard, and I nearly died from asphyxiation.
Have you ever recovered from that?
I don't know that I have, but I think it's a long time ago. So I think kids do forget this stuff. Obviously, my brain doesn't work as well as it might have done had I not had that incident. But yeah, so I think these things happen when you're kids. I think you're probably completely forgiven.
I think Brother Matt. I think I know what Brother Matt's going to say. Go on.
I should say, in the interests of full disclosure here, that I once accidentally, on purpose, left my sister's Bananarama record on the radiator, and it bent in two, and she wasn't happy about that. But then, you know, these things happen.
What's wrong with Bananarama?
There was nothing wrong with Bananarama. We were just having a fight, and I decided, aha, Bananarama, you shall take the brunt of my ire. What I love about this story, and this is one of the best stories we've had for a while, is that wouldn't it have been great if she'd revealed this while they were doing this sort of, you know, they talk about this story apparently every Christmas over the Christmas dinner. He says, oh yes, I got this mark when I ran into the conservatory. Wouldn't it have been great for her to say, no you didn't, actually I chucked a Britney Spears CD at you. Anyway, good, we can all laugh about it now, isn't it? And stunned silence over the Christmas meal. I think it's great. Well done. Excellent story. We've all done it, probably. Very CSI of her to be able to take and position the body on the conservatory door.
I thought you were not going to forgive on the basis that they had a conservatory.
Oh yes, class war. That's right, actually.
And the mother was 3 floors up. Who has 3 floors?
3 floors?
That's outrageous.
Who are these people?
We have a bigger collective. We have Sister Rebecca, have Mother Superior, we have Brother Matthew and Brother Nigel making a surprise appearance.
Evening 007.
And this is, thank you very much, it's because it is another culinary confession, and therefore Brother Nigel is allowed up from the kitchens to help us
Literally
out.
come up.
A rare but welcome appearance, I'd like to say, Nigel.
Yes. Yeah. And he's here and not in your flat setting off all the alarms.
No, not today.
And trying on your clothes.
He can't afford it.
That's what he's...
Well, really.
Tonight's confession is anonymous. Father Simon and the 4 horsemen of the forgiving apocalypse. I wish to seek your absolution for an event which occurred a few years ago, but which, because I still work at the same establishment, requires me to keep my name secret for fear of falling foul of my fellow workers' disapproval and disgust. The year was 2009. I had recently started a new job, and equally important as the job itself, was doing my best to ensure that I fitted into the social circle of the place. The television show Come Dine With Me was at the height of its popularity, and, for a bit of a giggle, myself and 3 other employees decided to hold our own version at each other's houses, spread over the course of a couple of months. Well, we drew lots, and it turned out that I would be the first to cook. The only snag? I'm not that much of a chef. Not wanting to let my newfound friends think that I was a slacker when it came to serving up a soufflé or a dud at dishing up a duck à l'orange, I sweated over a few cookbooks in nervous trepidation as I decided how on earth I was going to prepare a 3-course meal and attempt to convince everyone that my home economics GCSE A grade had indeed been no fluke. As is customary in the TV show itself, I was to announce my menu a few days before the meal, no doubt giving time for my guests' mouths to salivate in fevered anticipation of the event, given the rather extravagant selection I had foolishly declared I would be serving, which was warm goat's cheese salad, lamb cutlets, and a trio of flamboyant desserts awaited. What do you think of that, Nigel, so far?
I'm intrigued to see where it's going to go so badly wrong.
Okay. No, I meant a warm goat's cheese salad, lamb cutlets, and flamboyant desserts. Is that a good selection?
No, that's fun. Flamboyant desserts. Interesting.
Okay, right.
Yeah, flammable.
And this is what awaited them, and just a day before they were due to arrive, I still had absolutely no idea how I was going to actually cook them. I surmised that the salad would be fine, and I'd fished out a simple meringue recipe for one of the desserts, which I hoped that laden with cream might avert their taste buds from trying the rest of the plate, when all of a sudden I stumbled upon a simple and convenient solution. If it was good enough for Helen Mirren in Calendar Girls, it was going to be good enough for me too. So I hurried down to, well, let's say it's a shop that sells clothes that you can return without a quibble, but conveniently sells rather tasty food, and Delia quite likes it.
Strange shop.
I selected some of their finest ready meals and a few mini desserts to form the bulk of my menu. The meal itself went like a dream. My work buddies astonished at my culinary expertise, with one of them even declaring that my creme brulee was the best he had ever tasted in her life. I changed the sex halfway through that. Anyway, she declared to be the best of her life. Sorry about that. However, upon return, that would have been an interesting creme brulee if you changed sex halfway through. However, upon returning, that would have been
A miracle.
genetically modified creme brulee. However, upon returning to work the following week, it soon became apparent how intimidated my fellow contestants must have been of my false creative flair. As news quickly began to spread of my Delia Smith-like skills, I began to get a little worried that the others were taking the light-hearted competition a tad seriously, and I was right to be worried. The competition soon became the buzz of the workplace, meriting mentions and weekly updates on progress in meetings, and rather OTT step of requiring each person's scores to be locked away in the office safe until the final night's tasting. No doubt spurred on by my palatable offering, one even went so far as to import equipment and food from Thailand at considerable expense in a bid to win the first prize, which I should point out wasn't £1,000 in cash, but a meal at the restaurant of the winner's choice, paid for by the other three. Well, to cut a long strudel short, come the final meal, it turned out that I had emerged victorious, even bagging a coveted 10 out of 10 from one of my fellow contestants. What was I to do? Own up now and basically void the entire enterprise? Well, muted by shock, I accepted my win humbly and feigned surprise that little old me could possibly beat such distinguished competition, regurgitating a similar line that I was announced as winner in front of the whole workforce the following Monday. So I'm seeking forgiveness from, rather a few people, really, for this culinary sin. Firstly, to the entire staff of my workplace who to this day believe that my creme brulees are to die for. When asked, I just say, it's a family secret, goes back many generations. Secondly, to the good old shop that sells clothes that you can return without a quibble, but have very tasty food, and Delia likes them, for claiming credit for their delicious recipes for myself, and thirdly to my three fellow contestants for the shameful duplicity and for setting them back around £50 at my winner's meal. What would Delia say? Never mind what St. Delia would say. What about Sister Rebecca? What would you say?
So basically, Anonymous cooked the first two courses and bought the pudding. Is that right?
Bought the whole thing.
I bought the whole thing. Bought the whole thing.
Bought the whole thing.
Ooh, okay, I was about to say, well, obviously they can cook a bit. The thing is, who hasn't passed off a bought dish as their own? I mean, we've all done it.
Have we?
Have you never done
No.
it? Really?
Apart from when Delia came in on the programme I was doing, and I had a cheese something or other.
What? And you said you'd made it?
Yeah, but it was only a joke.
Did you tell her it was a joke?
Yes, I did.
Doesn't count.
Okay, I don't know. I think, now that I've found out, I thought it was just the pudding. Okay, yeah, you can't do that in a competition. No, you can't do it. So you're not forgiven, sorry.
Mother Superior.
I think it's a very, very lazy way of getting a free meal. Those other three had to fork out for a free meal for you on the basis that you did cheat, I'm afraid. You cheated badly. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a terrible cook. I'm a really bad cook. And I have pretended in the past to have cooked things that I've bought. But
maybe then Sister Rebecca's right.
Well,
maybe
no, but
I
would never have done it if I'd have thought there was a competition element to it and there would have been money spent on me as a result of it. By the way, what's Delia got to do with this particular place where they shop, where you can take the clothes back? Delia, that's the wrong place.
Who wants to?
It's the wrong place.
Who wants to say?
No, I'm just saying it's the wrong place you're thinking of. Anyway.
Brother sorry, what did you
say? So you're not forgiven? No.
Not forgiven. Brother Matthew.
I'd definitely do this, and I'd definitely do it if there was money involved and there was a competition and things were being locked away in safes. Get a grip, please. And someone's sending off to Thailand.
For food and for equipment.
Please. Definitely do it, yeah. Nothing to forgive, because we'd all do it, and anyone who says they wouldn't do it is lying.
Well,
I wouldn't, actually.
Brother Nigel from the kitchens.
I'm looking at Matt in quite a different light now. I think the fact is that the whole meal, because, the warm goat's cheese salad and the lamb cutlets, hardly difficult. And they should have had a go at those. The flamboyant desserts were the things that did worry me. So the fact that they didn't attempt any of it...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, on this occasion, Anonymous, I can't actually forgive you.
Really? It's a stern word from Friar Nigel there. From
moral high ground there.
Get me, I know.
And that was that. Who do you forgive? More confessions for you on Monday, as always. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to this BBC Radio 2 free download. Now, why not try more?
Jazz for me, I guess, is improvisation.
My pick of the best in rhythm and blues.
Music from Richard Thompson, Chris Wood and Pentangle, amongst many, many others.
All at the BBC Radio 2 website.